Well, good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Let's see who is in here. We have never talked about this case before, which is insane. It's only been talked about in the Facebook groups and the page, and it's been going on since 2016. Normally, when a case is in the middle, 3/4 of the way, I'm like, there's really not much that I can do. Not that I can really do much anyway, but you know what I mean. This is a case like no other, though. This is a 8-part Netflix series. I guarantee it will be. 20-part Hulu. This is not even a mini series. This is a book that would take you all summer to get through. I'm going to steal a YouTube name out of chat. Insanely confused is what it is. It is insane. We just had Thanksgiving last week. We have Christmas coming up, so we know we're going to be bumping into the fam. We're going to be around the family. Wait till you get a load of this family. There's not a word. Dysfunction doesn't do it. Codependency doesn't do it. Narcissism doesn't do it. No boundaries doesn't do it. Shady, corrupt, criminal. There's not a word. We're going to have to invent one because it doesn't get crazier than the Pike County Massacre. And I mean massacre. Let's see who's in here. Hello, Natasha. Hello, Jennifer Stewart. Elaine. Crafty one made it. Granny made it. What's up, Faye? Radio Gaga, what's up? I already said hello to Insanely Confused because I used her name. B and C, hello. Stardust. I see some new names in here. Take a minute, get comfy, say hi, make sure you hit the sub button, and get reminded for all because we cannot trust YouTube to tell us when it's showtime, right? A good rule of thumb is 9 a.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. Sometimes if I have enough gas in the tank, we'll do another one during the day. Like today. We have another show this afternoon. Also, I don't know what is going on with YouTube. Some people had wrenches and they don't now. So I don't know if you guys can remove your own wrench and you just didn't want a wrench anymore. It's a pain in the ass. I get it. I do. So if you would like to help moderate the chat, which there's really not much to moderate because we just are lucky and have super ass cool people. Send me an email and I'll see what I can do for you. And yes, Lisa, it is wild. I know like a couple weeks ago, Uli popped in and she didn't have a wrench. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? It happened to Pat. Somebody else. Now, if somebody just hasn't been around for 6 months, that's a different story. But anyway, if you are so obliged, let me know. Let me know. So for this, I'm rubbing my face already because I don't know where to start. Let me preface it with this. This happened in 2016. All right. It is the largest murder investigation in Ohio history. It is a bigger case than the Cleveland kidnappings, believe it or not. 8 family members. I'm going to put their picture up. The Rhoden family. 8 people massacred. Christopher Rhoden Sr., Clarence, they call him Frankie. Dana, she's the mom. Gary Rhoden. Hannah Mae Rhoden, you're going to hear her name a lot. Hannah Gilly, who was a fiance to Frankie. Kenneth Rhoden. Christopher Rhoden Jr., who was only 16 years old. They were shot and killed in their home. Not one home, mind you, There's 4 different crime scenes. So as this broke open after April 22nd, 2016, some things about the Rhoden family came to light. They had a pot growing field, I guess you call it, in their area, controlled by them. And they also had a chicken fighting going on, cockfighting, you call it. So the then Attorney General, Mark DeWine, who is now the governor of the state, he grabbed this really fast because 8 people do not get annihilated from the same family overnight and have those types of, let's say, connections. So they're immediately thinking a bad business that went really bad. They even at one time were suspecting Bobby Joe Manley, who made the discovery, one of the discoveries. It gets more and more insane. Now, I know some of you have been following this case since the beginning, since 2016. Some of you are local, whether to the state or the area. And so there's going to be a lot of things you're going to say, but you forgot this, but you forgot this. Noted. Trust me, I will. Because as I said, this that you would have to sit down with breakfast right now, pack a lunch, pack dinner, breakfast for tomorrow, and lunch again tomorrow for us to possibly cover all of it. And even then, I'm going to miss stuff. My take on this case, which several of you asked me, they said, you have to cover this, you have to cover it. My take is that it really surrounds 3 people as opposed to the 8 that died and the 6 in the other family. I haven't even gotten to that yet. Like I said, in 2016, it came to light. They have a pot growing business going. They have this chicken fighting. So it doesn't take a real legal eagle to say, hey, the cartel could be pissed at them. Or somebody with this chicken fighting gambling going on is pissed. Not at all. That actually, somebody could have been pissed, but that's not what led to this. Like I said, they blamed Billy Joe or Bobby Joe. Wrong case. But it wasn't her. Other people were suspected. They were questioned and everything like that. But it was 2018 that it really cracked open. It became like a real life Hatfield and McCoy. 4 members of another family, George, they call him Billy, his wife Angela, you're going to hear her name a lot, and their sons, George, who's on trial right now. The closing arguments are going on right now. George and his little brother, Jake. All right. Not to skip over too much, but Jake is in jail for life. Billy has not been to trial yet, and Angela, the mom, she got 30 years. This will all start making sense as we put it together. It's all over the news. Some people said, why the hell would you do a show while the closing arguments are going on? Well, because I've been seeing a lot of comments where people are feeling bad for old Georgie Porgy. They think he just was born into a bad family and there was no escaping what happened. I tend to disagree. I do believe that this centers mainly around, well, I have to say 4 people. That would be, as they call it, believe it or not, the love story. On the screen, this is Jake Wagner and Hannah Mae Rhoden. This is them going to a dance. They met when he was almost 18 and she was 13. They started dating. If a 13-year-old could date, they were dating. It was, he asked her father for permission. Her father said yes, but they were going to be heavily chaperoned, whatever. She got pregnant at 15. At 15. They have a little girl. And it is said that the reason for this family annihilation has to do with custody of this little girl. Now, I will say that there was, they were fighting over custody of her for sure. And his mother, Angela, was right in the middle of everything. Right before the show, Court K reached out to me and she said, "Have you ever seen the show Sons of Anarchy?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love that show." And she said, "Angela is Gemma." And she is. She's involved in everything. Her husband answers to her. Her children, if she says, "Start me a fire," they build a bomb. Her mother, even her mother-in-law, she has control of everyone. Everyone. And I honestly believe that part of this, a big part of this, is the fact that when she didn't get her way, which was 100% full custody of the little girl, someone else for her to control, and she was told hell no by Hannah, I think she lost it. I think she lost it. I'm going to show you real quick the Rhoden family tree. Then we're going to hear a clip, which is probably the best clip to explain the family and their relationship with Angela on the screen. Let me tell you, in my house, when my kids were teenagers, I was lucky to get the trash taken out. It was, "Hey, can someone get the trash? Hey, can someone take the trash out? Can you get the hey, can one of you grab the trash? Okay, it's spilling over into the floor. Can someone get the trash for me? Is the trash can gonna grow legs and walk its ass out to the dumpster? Can someone get the trash?" Okay, so that's my house, and I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about. Not Angela Wagner. No. She stirred this whole thing up based on a Facebook post and some other Facebook comments. She convinced her family that this little girl was either being molested or was going to be molested. And for months, they orchestrated this massacre. She is a pot stirrer. A pot stirrer. So, yes, while I know Georgie's closing arguments are going on, that's why I wanted to do this today, so we can have a better understanding before the verdict comes back. Because the prosecution, in my opinion, has failed to prove their case, and he has got a lot of sympathy from people who just started following because on court TV, Law and Crime, you name it, they follow these trials, not so much the cases. We do it different around here. Mark my words, though, Angela Wagner stirred all this up. In some ways, she is more responsible for the murder of the Rhoden family, here on the screen. Kenneth, Gary, Dana, Christopher Jr., Frankie, Hannah, and the fiance, Hannah Gilley. The two gunmen were Billy. There's Billy. And Jake. There's Jake with Hannah. There's the Wagner, I almost said county. Wagner family mugshots. Angela's smiling. I'm really worried he's going to walk because of the prosecution, because for one, I don't think they expected him to testify, and they were not prepared for it. Not prepared for it at all. Not prepared for it. So he has come across as sort of a gentle buffoon in a bad family, bullied by his little brother, tried his best to stay away from his mom and just stay out of all the terrible things his family did. And let me tell you what, they do nasty, nasty things. I mean, you name it, they do it. You name it, they do it. He talks about as a child, newspapers and fuse boxes to burn houses down to get insurance money. Jake spoke about it in his trial. He took a plea deal. He's going to serve life. He will never see the light of day, but they took the death penalty off. Now, the defense, and of course this is going to be their defense, is saying Angela and Jake are testifying against George because the state asked them to, and the state also took the death penalty away. So their argument is they're doing what the state said because they made a deal. Barb says, I guarantee they will find guilty. Let's see. All right, so let's start with Angela's half-brother. He basically puts it into a nutshell and boils it down for us. The family dynamics of the Wagner family.
Can you tell us the kind of dynamics between your sister Angela and her two sons, Jake and George? How would you describe that relationship?
On her part, controlling is all get out.
Okay. Tell me about that. What do you mean by controlling as all get out?
She tell them to jump, they jump. I think that's the politest way I can put that.
And can you tell us what her relationship was like with Billy?
Okay, give me a minute. Dysfunctional? Sound about right? Give or take, somewhere in there.
And why do you say that?
Well, if you know Billy, you pretty much know why he was dysfunctional.
Okay. And so go ahead and tell me about that. Tell me about your observations or your experience with Billy Wagner.
He's about as useless as tits on a bore hole.
Okay.
Useless as tits on a boar hog. If she says jump, they jump. Angela doesn't just have this control over her sons and over Billy. She has it over her mom. And her mom is one thing. Mothers and daughters, mothers and sons, that's a relationship in its own. But her mother-in-law, both the grandmas were in on this. I'm not saying they planned to murder or anything. They certainly helped cover it up. Ma Barker, exactly, Whist. Exactly. That is Angela Wagner. Evil at its finest. Angela orchestrated all of this. My question is, why? Is it for the ultimate control? Because Hannah was not doing what she wanted? Because Hannah had moved on and was with another guy, and Jake was humiliated in a way. What was it? Aaron Hicks, where you been? Aaron Hicks says, what a family, eek. Well, what a treat, Aaron Hicks is back. They all need to go down for this. They all need to go down for this. Because I'm telling you, Angela was so furious. She orchestrated all of this. She was even seen on camera, CCTV, at a Walmart I think in Waverly, Ohio, buying Velcro tennis shoes, like, like old men wear. Those exact shoe prints were at the scene. One of the scenes, all of the scenes, four crime scenes. A trial like that would bankrupt a county, and this is an already poor county. All right, let's go to the 911 call, and we're going to go kind of step by step and then bring us up to where we are now. And that would be, is George guilty or innocent? According to him, he was not there. According to Jake, he was. George was supposed to make a kill, but he froze up. I don't know. You know my thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
They were all shot in the head, execution style. 8 members of the same extended family living in a rural part of southern Ohio. We're hearing for the first time what it was like on 911 recordings of relatives who called for help. Tonight, a manhunt goes on. A reward has been offered, and officials warn people to be cautious with a killer or killers still on the loose. A big question tonight, what led to such a rampage? It's where we begin in Ohio with our report from Gabe Gutierrez.
Man, everything that's going on. There's blood all over the house.
The first panic call for help.
My brother-in-law's in the bedroom, and I beat the hell out of him.
Shattered rural Pike County, Ohio, just before 8 a.m. Friday.
It's all this stuff that's on the news. I just found my cousin with a gunshot wound.
Okay, so is she alive?
No.
The grisly discovery launched an all-out manhunt. Sheriff's deputies would soon find 8 relatives shot dead in 4 separate homes, only miles apart. The victim.
Okay, I need to put that back on the screen so you can see the crime scenes. 4 different crime scenes. 4. All of these people were not in one house. They had to hunt them down. That is how bad Angela wanted this entire family gone. If this was about custody and Jake went and killed Hannah Mae Rhoden, we would not be talking about this right now. This would not be a case in 2022. It'd be wrong, it'd be sad, it'd be disgusting. But we would be like, He killed his girlfriend. He killed his baby's mom. Execution style. And these were overkills, guys. Overkills. I failed to mention Hannah had moved on. Well, I did say that. She had a baby with another guy. Of course, this is kind of what stirred this up with Angela, saying that another man was going to start molesting their child together. She had her baby laying right next to her when she was shot execution style.
Victims ranged in age from 16 to 44. The family identified as the Rhodens. The baby's grandmother was Dana Rhoden, a nurse's aide at a local nursing home. Some discovered still in bed, investigators say, suggesting they were shot execution style while they were sleeping.
It looks like they're dead. You think they're both dead? I think they're both dead.
Just as chilling, who survived? 3 children, a 3-year-old, a 6-month-old, and a newborn just 4 days old, found in the same room as his dead mother. Authorities say none of the victims committed suicide, so they're warning residents that at least one killer is on the loose, considered armed and dangerous.
We do not know whether we're talking about one individual or 2 or 3 or more. We simply do not know that at this point.
The family, identified as the Rhodens, well known in Pike County, population less than 30,000. Today, a spokesperson reading a statement on their behalf, asking for privacy.
The Rhoden family would like to thank everyone for all the outpouring of prayers and support for their family. They ask that you to continue to keep them in your prayers.
Today, the extended family is shaken.
It's hard.
Pastor Phil Fulton knew some of the victims.
Very close-knit family that cared for one another, that worked hard.
Tonight, a $25,000 reward has just been posted for any information leading to an arrest, as this horrifying mystery in the Midwest deepens. Perhaps most puzzling of all, what was the motive? Well, tonight, sheriff's deputies here aren't saying. They've interviewed dozens of people so far, but have no suspects.
Okay, so in 2016, that was in 2016, they had no suspects. They weren't talking about a motive. But at the time, they believed it was somehow connected to the weed growing business, which for all intents and purposes was not that big, okay? It wasn't that big. It wasn't like an episode of Ozark, if you know what I mean. Then they had the damn chicken fighting. So they're thinking bad business went real bad. Again, they suspected Bobby Joe, the one that called 911. Let me see if I can find a picture of this crime scene. I thought I had. I'll get it after when I do the next clip. The Wagner family, in the midst of this, believe it or not, as if this wouldn't look weird, up and moved to Alaska. They didn't move to Kentucky. They didn't skedaddle on over to Missouri. They moved to Alaska. On their way, in their crossing, let me say, I believe they were in Montana, they were stopped by federal agents that had some questions for them. Well, from there, they're really on high alert. They're really on high alert. They actually had somebody else living in the home. And I don't know if they got a heads up from him. I'm going to assume they did because they had a lot of their stuff still there. And they were told that people are poking around the house and they have a lot of questions about you guys. As time went on, they tapped their phones. They had some wiretapping going on. And everything started to fall into place. Question is, we know that Angela, to her own admittance now, planned this. Jake is responsible for, is it 5 or 6 of the murders? I have to look again. His father's responsible, well, for who he didn't have the juice to get. What about George? George says he wasn't there. He says he was in bed watching a fairy movie. He said at 10:30, but he told border agents it was 12:30. His defense said it's not a big deal that he doesn't remember his bedtime in 2016. Missy said 5. Thank you, Missy. Sorry about that. So we're going to go to a clip where they started searching their property. Thank you, Robin. 5. Thank you. Jake, responsible for 5. Don't forget the mother of his child. Don't forget the mother of his child was one of them.
So emerging in the weekend, property searches connected to the Rhoden family murders in Pike County. The owner of one of the properties tells the 9 on Your Side I-Team that investigators showed up at his house because of the ex-boyfriend of one of the victims. Investigative reporter Hillary Lake is in Pike County right now tracking this developing story for us. Hillary, what else have you learned?
Well, Craig, Sheriff Reeder has said all along that figuring out who murdered 8 members of the Rhoden family and arresting them is like putting pieces of a puzzle together. That has not changed despite those weekend searches. Here's what I discovered today. You see on some Chopper 9 footage from last Friday that detectives searching through several trailers on property where a business called Unlimited Motors is located. I spoke with the property owner today who said the trailers and all that stuff belongs to a guy named Jake Wagner and his family. He says the Wagners dropped off the trailers about 10 days ago and he was supposed to store it for them temporarily. A Rhoden family member tells me Jake Wagner is the ex-boyfriend of Hannah Rhoden, a 19-year-old who was shot and killed along with 7 other members of her family last April. She's also the mother of the 4-day-old baby that wasn't hurt in the shooting. Jake Wagner and Hannah Rhoden were in a custody dispute over an older daughter they shared, and there were questions if Jake was the father of the 4-day-old. Over the weekend, we confirmed through property records that the other 2 properties investigators searched on Friday and Saturday are also connected to the Wagner family. The Rhoden murders have gone unsolved for 14 months. Police have never identified any suspects except to say they believe whoever did it knew the family well. And I asked Sheriff Reeder today about Jake Wagner's whereabouts. He would not comment. I also reached out to the Attorney General's office, and they're declining to comment about anything that has to do with this investigation about those searches. We're live in Pike County. Hillary Lake, 9 on your side.
All right, so they're searching the property. The heat's on. It's a little community, so you would think by then somebody would have said something. I honestly think that this family, the Wagner family, kept everything very, very close to them. Very close. I think these were very well-guarded secrets. I don't think they spoke outside of their clan. They shared finances. Angela had a say in everything. Everything. I feel very bad for anybody that they married or dated. I do. So the question is, how can they be that ingrained in each other's lives and Georgie Porgy not knowing anything is going on? How could he not know? He went to Alaska with them. He came back. He's on trial right now. And if you look at any of the rolling active chats, there are a lot of people that believe that he is just a victim of being in a bad family. He's just a victim of being in a bad family. It's insane. Let's hear a little clip of Angela. Now, let's not forget. Well, I shouldn't say forget because I haven't said it yet. I may have. Angela is testifying, has testified against George. Now, mind you, the state needs her to. Part of the agreement for Angela to not get the death penalty and Jake is that they put the others away. Make no bones about it. So that's part of why the defense, well, that's really their main defense right now. George wasn't there. George didn't kill anybody. George didn't know. George was watching a fairy movie. And Angela and Jake took a sweet deal from the state of Ohio, so they're going to say whatever that they have to say.
One month since the Pike County Massacre trial began. George Wagner IV, accused of helping his family stalk and kill 8 people back in 2016. WCPO 9 News reporter Courtney Francisco keeping up with this story for us. Courtney, the trial picked up some steam today.
Yes, Craig, with a 2-hour and 4-minute long interrogation tape. In it, state agents had just surprised the Wagner family at the Canadian border, and they put them in separate rooms and began questioning them about the relationship with the Rhodens. Now, remember, Jake Wagner had a baby with Hannah Rhoden, and prosecutors believed that the Wagners wanted to kill the Rhodens to get custody of that child. So today, jurors heard that interrogation tape of the Wagner grandmother talking to agents. Now, I'm about to play you different moments where agents believe they caught her in lies. Watch.
Could something have happened between Hannah and Jake that could have Not to the point of murder.
No.
Was there any type of living will or anything? Like, if something were to happen, this is where, Sophie would go, or?
I have no idea on that.
You don't remember that?
No.
This was printed out 3 weeks before the murder, less than 3 weeks. That Hannah's given up, custody. These are foot impressions made in blood. Okay, I have the killers. We have a receipt for those shoes purchased by you.
Okay, so right there are the fugly shoes that Angela went to the Walmart and bought for them to wear for the murder. He even shows the shoe prints. They've got her on camera. They've got the receipt. They've got the whole 9 yards. So on top of everything else, this will really knock your socks off. Angela's a liar too. Angela is a liar too. She is an idiot. She is an idiot and she's a liar.
I do not think that they could be those. They are.
How
I match them?
They're an identical match.
I got them, but I don't. They are in our man's shoe, so they wouldn't wear them. I threw them away.
Shell casings in your driveway. Okay. The 22 shell casings were fired from the same gun that killed.
There's no way. Angela, it's an identical match.
And after all that talking, Angela finally said, "Hey, I know what you're getting at. I quit. I want an attorney." Reporting.
I quit. I want an attorney. So she's like, they're old man shoes. They wouldn't wear them anyway. I just threw them away. So she wouldn't even take them and exchange them, right? To get some shoes that the younger crowd would wear. So we're supposed to believe that. Shell casings? They're like, it's an identical match, Angela. Well, that can't be. Well, it is, Ma Barker. It is. It is. Then she just says, oh, I know what you're getting at. That's it. I quit. I want an attorney. Well, they took the death penalty off the table. She's going to serve 30 years. That would make Angela 77 when she gets out. I don't know if there's any good behavior for Angela or anything like that where she can get out early. I'm not sure. But in her mind, because she's crazy, she is crazy, she believes that when she gets out in 30 years, she's going to reconnect with her grandchildren. I have a feeling between now and when she's 77, the grandkids are going to be like, no, you wiped out an entire generation in my town. You told my daddy that I was being molested. And you basically got everybody in a war. The biggest trial the state of Ohio's ever seen. The poor little elf that was the attorney general, he was still dealing with the trial when he became governor. You got to be kidding me. So this is when we get to where Angela says this is not about custody. It's not about custody. And I believe she even goes into how George knew. George knew. She's hell-bent on saying George knew, and so was Jake. Jake actually turns out to be one of the most believable people, if you can believe it, in this trial. People are sympathizing with Jake too. Don't forget, cold-blooded murder. Jake, execution style, 5 people. 1 is the mother of his child.
Murder trial, Angela Wagner's testimony comes to an end against her son, George. They're accused of helping plan and cover up the murders of 8 different people back in 2016. Our Courtney Francisco's in Waverly and tells us what Angela had to say about her son's alleged role in the massacre.
3 days of a mother testifying against her son. Some of the biggest takeaways from Angela Wagner's testimony was she says George knew about the plan to murder the Rhodens and he helped with the cover-up. George Wagner IV faces the death penalty if found guilty of helping kill 8 members of the Rhoden family. And his mother, Angela, took a plea deal to escape the death penalty herself and get 30 years in prison. And the defense used that against her to say she's lying to satisfy her end of the bargain, with no regard for her own son, who still faces that deadly punishment. The defense also tried to paint the picture that Angela's husband, Billy, gave the family no choice but to go along with his plan to murder the Rhodens to protect his granddaughter, Sophia, from child abuse. The defense.
Okay, do you guys believe that this plan was cooked up by Angela or Billy? I don't think Angela would be sitting in the clink for 30 years if it was all Billy. And let's not forget, Billy is not known to be the sharpest tack in the box. I believe 100% it is Angela. 100%. I go back to, I'll play it again, what her brother said. Her brother said, she says jump, they're ready.
Can you tell us the kind of dynamics between your sister Angela and her 2 sons, Jake and George? How would you describe that relationship?
On her part, controlling is all get out.
Okay. Tell me about that. What do you mean by controlling as all get out?
She tell them to jump, they jump. I think that's politest way I can put that.
And can you tell us what her relationship was like with Billy?
Okay, give me a minute. Dysfunctional? Sound about right? Give or take? Somewhere in there?
And why do you say that?
Well, if you know Billy, you pretty much know why he was dysfunctional.
Okay. And so go ahead and tell me about that. Tell me about your observations or your experience with Billy Wagner.
He's about as useless as tits on a borehole.
Okay.
That's all we got for Billy. Billy's useless. Billy's useless. Billy couldn't have come up with all this. Billy is useless.
Defense pointed to Angela's testimony that Billy beat Angela, coerced her. She said she did not agree with the plan to kill, but went along with it. But does that plant the seed in jurors' minds that George does not deserve death? He just went along with it. Reporting in Waverly, Courtney Francisco, WCPO 9 News.
Thank you, Pat. Pat said, this guy's grin makes me sick. Yeah, I imagine when the uncle, the brother, half-brother, he'd be the uncle to George and Jake. He believed that the Rhodens had just gotten into bad business. You mean, even with as messed up as the Wagner family is, he didn't believe that they were capable of carnage. I mean, that's the only way you can look at it. Absolute carnage. But she says Billy bullied her. He beat her, intimidated her. So she felt that there was nothing else she could do. She plays the damsel in distress. Nobody's buying it. Hence why she's sitting there for 30 years. And not just her half brother, other people have said Billy is a titty on a boar hog. He's useless. He would have never come up with this. She's the one that was trolling Facebook and got herself and Jake all wound up about this new boyfriend of Hannah's, saying either she's being molested, meaning the granddaughter, or she's gonna be. We've got to do something, guys. I think it really came down to Hannah saying, you're not getting full custody of my little girl. They even forged custody documents. She got her mom to do that. The grandmas are in on it. The grandmas. Now, at some point, Hannah was getting a vibe, I believe, that this was dangerous and getting dangerous. I'm really surprised that there wasn't more done from her side, meaning the Rhoden family, because it sounds like I'm victim shaming, and I'm not by any means, because you wouldn't think that this was going to go down. Nobody in their right mind would think that an entire generation would be annihilated one night and orchestrated by one Angela Wagner. If you're believing that, then you're crazy. Obviously, that's what happened, though. Jake was very controlling of Hannah. Don't forget, they started dating when she was 13 years old. 13 years old. And her family, they're pretty rough too. They can handle their own. Don't think they can't. They didn't foresee this coming. They did not foresee this coming. But Hannah, on her Facebook and other places, she had some not so subtle hints that things were not good with her and Jake, to put it mildly.
A trial begins next week in the Pike County Massacre, one of the biggest murder cases in Ohio history. There were a few last-minute decisions on what prosecutors can tell the jury, including a key piece of evidence from the social media account of one of the victims. Local 12's James Pilcher is covering the trial of George Wagner IV and has this update.
George Wagner IV goes on trial Tuesday for his part in the killing of 8 members of the Rhoden and Gilley family 6 years ago. And late this week, prosecutors won the right to include a key Facebook message from Hannah Rhoden, one of the victims. George is one of 4 Wagners accused of killing 8 members of the Rhoden and Gilley families in April 2016. Younger brother Jake and mother Angela have already pleaded guilty to either the murders or helping plan the crimes. Both are expected to testify in George's trial. Father Billy Wagner goes on trial later this year. Prosecutors allege the motive for the massacre was a custody battle over the daughter of Jake Wagner and Hannah Rhoden. Judge Randy Deering allowed prosecutors to introduce Facebook messages from Hannah Rhoden regarding the Wagners and the custody battle. In the message, Hannah writes, "I won't sign papers ever. It won't happen. They will have to kill me first." This message was written just months before the murders, about the same time as when the Wagners are accused of hacking into her account. But Deering blocked any evidence indicating Billy Wagner got into a physical fight with Hannah's father, Chris Sr., also killed that night. Opening statements start Tuesday. Each side is expected to take at least 2 hours, so it's unclear whether any witnesses will take the stand then. In Waverly, James Pilcher, Local 12 News.
So we already had some foreshadowing, as per her social media, where she said they'll have to kill me first. There's a lot. Her Facebook has been memorialized, and you can see a lot of stuff she was posting. They look kind of like passive aggressive memes, I'm sure, at the time, but they mean a lot more now. They mean a lot more now. Hang on. Mary said, if Angela is successful in conning her grandchildren for the next 50 years, she might actually make out all this in the end. There's going to be books, movie deals, all of that. You are exactly right. Exactly right. The last thing I heard as far as Hollywood, or Holly Weird as I call it, is that Netflix is planning a series about this. Now, I heard originally they were waiting for Billy's trial to be over but I don't know. Sometimes they're quicker on the jump, if you know what I mean. Jake and Hannah were so connected at the hip at one time. Her dad said Jake and Hannah cannot get married until she turns 18. Not unreasonable. Not unreasonable. Unreasonable that she was dating him at 13. Supposedly there was all this chaperoning and supervision, but she got pregnant at 15. Lo and behold, what do you know? They had wedding bands tattooed. Hannah died next to her baby, 4 days old, with a tattooed wedding band around her finger, meaning she belongs to Jake. Jake is still sitting in jail with a tattooed wedding band around his finger. And I believe Angela stirred every bit of it up. Every bit of it up. When she says she felt backed in the corner by Billy, no. I believe Billy, George, and Jake were backed in the corner by her. She even got the grandmas involved. She had her mom calling the tip line. She had documents forged. It's bad. It is bad. So now we get to, I guess, and probably 16 chapters have been skipped because I'm just trying to get us up to speed before we get to the verdict, which hopefully comes out this week for George. This is brother versus brother. Now, again, don't forget, the state of Ohio made a deal with Jake, no death penalty, and with Angela to take death penalty off the table if they testify. And the wording is odd. It's like testify not to the best of your ability. I'm trying to remember the phrase that they used. Have to think about it. Maybe they'll say it in this clip. But this is Jake talking about his brother's involvement. He places George at the scene. George says he was in bed watching fairy movies with the kids. Kitty cat mom. Jake was almost 18 when he started dating Hannah.
In the state of Ohio, it is how the defense described the deal that Jake Wagner made to avoid the death penalty. The best plea bargain in the state of Ohio. It is how the defense described the deal that Jake Wagner made to avoid the death penalty. The confessed killer is testifying against his brother, George Wagner IV. WCPO 9 News reporter Courtney Francisco was in the courtroom as the defense took over questioning this afternoon. Courtney, this has felt so much like a soap opera. So what was it like inside the courtroom?
Tanya, I wish our cameras could have taken you inside here today because Jake was smiling at inappropriate times. He kept turning his head away from the microphone to belch several times. And when the defense said, "You got the best plea bargain in the state, didn't you?" the lead prosecutor blurted out, "Jesus," and false statement. Many in the jury were poised in their seats as defense attorney John Parker said, "You got off the hook for the death penalty for killing the Rhodens, yet your brother, who you admit did not kill any of them, is still facing death." Parker quickly asked him question after question to poke holes in Jake's account of the massacre. The defense argues Jake killed all 8 of the Rhodens, all with consistent wounds in the head, eyes, many covered in blankets. The defense is saying Jake's dad, Billy, did not kill any of them, and neither did George. The defense read quotes from Jake's statements to investigators that said George didn't like the idea whatsoever. He thought of Hannah as a sister. He said he didn't want to do it. "Don't trust Dad." He decided to go because he was thinking Dad was trying to set me up. Then the defense led Jake through each step of the massacre as he smiled at the strangest times. For example, he was describing shooting his only child's mother in the forehead as she tried to breastfeed her newborn. Jake said, "Her head jarred back. I stood over her, shot her again. He said her body fell off the bed. The defense said, ah, yes. So you gently placed her back on the bed so little Kylie wouldn't starve to death. And Jake said, yes, smiling. And the defense said, and you're smiling about it. And Jake said, yes, but not because it's okay. Now, toward the end, the defense told Jake, they said, you saw these pictures of the bodies with the wounds on them. And he said, oh, well, I don't remember the gruesome parts of this, so I kind of want to keep it that way, he told the defense. And the defense said, that's convenient, isn't it? Now, trial is on pause tomorrow. We will be back here on Friday where the defense will continue questioning Jake Wagner. Reporting live in Waverly, Courtney Francisco, WCPO 9 News.
It gets worse and worse. When I say overkill, I'm not trying to be dramatic in these cases, particularly this one I'm talking about right now. When I say there's no words, there's no words. When you know someone is dead, there's no reason to take their eye out. There's no reason to make sure they don't have teeth, if you know what I mean. There's no reason. Some people ask, well, how on earth did no one hear this? I understand that I bring that up in the Idaho case quite a bit. How did no one hear this? What the hell's going on here? They had silencers. They planned this. They planned this. Some of the stuff that Angela bought at Walmart was used to make silencers. Nobody could hear. They had it very well planned out. They got around the dogs. They got around cameras. Jake even described Dana, who is Hannah's mother. I'll put the picture up. There's a family tree. Dana. She was in bed on her phone. He could see the lighting of the phone on her face. And he went and killed her. Now, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that it would have been okay to just kill Hannah. I'm not saying that. But if that was your target and that's who you had the problem with, we wouldn't be talking about this. It would be yet another and all too common domestic situation gone way too far. The whole family, though, an entire generation. How bad did Angela get pissed off? Look at all these people. Look at all these people. What did the 16-year-old kid have to do with anything? What did the cousin? What did the newly engaged couple? And George claims to be best friends with Frankie. With Frankie Rhoden. From what I understand, they're blocked from each other on Facebook. I really hate in these cases that Facebook is brought up so much, but it does mean something. It is insane. It's insane. It is gruesome. It is just total carnage. It is total carnage. Pat, you're right. It's like a game to them. And I hate to bring up the movie because it's a great movie, but they had been watching the movie Boondock Saints 2. They even had like hair, like their hair kind of like the characters of the movie, and would quote different parts of the movie. They had made this into a game in their mind to annihilate this whole family. This whole family. I don't believe it's as much about a custody battle or believing that at some point the little girl was going to get molested. I think there's something more to it. I really do. And I think I think a lot of it has to do with just telling Angela no. I think that's a big part of it. It was a hit, a definite hit.
Testified.
All right, so now we hear from George. George IV. George has complained about weight problems, issues he's had with his mom, how his little brother bullied him. He has talked about how he just always knew that his mom favored Jake over him, how his dad trained them all to be criminals. We won't get all of it out of this clip, but this is some of the sympathy that is portrayed to the jury. It's different when you're in the jury box, and no, I've never served on a jury, but after trials, when a juror will give an interview or something, it's like, it's different being in the movie than watching the movie. You know, we watch Jaws and we're like, swim, bitch, you're going to get eaten. Different when you're in the movie. So the emotions and everything that they're feeling from the defense is not what we're seeing on TV, because we can easily get on our phone or our laptop or whatever and go back to 2016 and remind ourselves of how all of this began. They're not getting quite the history, well, that we're getting right now. And this is like this is a percentage. This is a small, tiny taste of the insanity of this case. Just a tiny percentage of it. Like I said, to get through all of it just up to today, you'd have to be sitting there with your breakfast, pack a lunch, dinner. I'd give you a quick nap. We'd be back for breakfast tomorrow. It would be a marathon. It would be a marathon. There is so much. One of the things that George is saying in court that is really pulling at the heartstrings, not that the jurors are speaking out, it's just what people in the gallery, I guess you call it, they can see facial expressions of the jurors, that it's really kind of tugging at him when he talks about Hannah as if she's a little sister. Well, she should have been like a little sister to him. She had been with Jake since she was 13 years old. 13 years old. She's the mama to his niece. My God.
Yesterday that you considered Hannah like a little sister, is that right?
Yes.
What type of things would the two of you talk about?
Everything from hunting and fishing and four-wheeling to county fairs to fall festivals. Any issues that she had that she was going through or anything I was going through.
Did you confide in her as well?
Yes.
What would you confide in her?
Issues about my weight and stuff, when I couldn't lose weight, and if I was having a bad week with Jake or my mother, or if I had any issues with Tabby, or
Under any circumstances, would you kill Hannah?
no,
Would you assist somebody else in killing Hannah?
no,
Do you remember saying on the recordings anything about your mother and whether she should get an attorney or not? Do you remember any of that?
yes.
What do you remember?
The conversation that I believe you're talking about is that if all of us were arrested, that my mother should get the best one.
And did you say that?
Yes,
Why did you say that?
because my mom's the one that watched the kids 5 days a week while we were gone anyway. They were used to being with her for 5 days a week, and I figured it would be easier on the children.
And were you?
Okay, so Georgie says, born into a bad family, bullied by Jake, tried to stay away from his mama. Basically, he is the diamond in the rough, okay? But he's having a conversation about Ma Barker getting the best attorney, and the reasoning is because she's the one that does all the babysitting. They don't want anything to be disruptive on the kids, right? Never mind that the child in question, the child shared by Jake and Hannah, a whole generation of her family was wiped out by these people, by the Wagners. But they want to get the best attorney for Angela to not disrupt the children because she's the one that watches them during the week. Can someone help me with that? Can somebody please explain on what planet that makes sense? You get the mastermind, the best attorney, but he has nothing to do with it, right? Because she watches the kids, and we don't want to disrupt the kids. We don't want to disrupt the kids. But we weren't thinking about it before we wiped out a whole limb of a family tree. If you look at the screen, these 8 people were annihilated. But that's the reasoning. That's the reason he even had anything to say about the attorney. Have her get the best one, because we don't want to lose the good babysitter. We don't want to lose the good babysitter.
Days a week while we were gone anyway. They were used to being with her for 5 days a week, and I figured it would be easier on the children.
And were you thinking that, oh my God, I'm
Your
doing
Honor, objection.
What were you thinking when you said that?
I was just going under what basically I understood from the attorneys, that if we got arrested, that it could take 6 months, it could take 2 years to get to a trial and be able to work things out.
Do you remember on some of the recordings we listened to, your mother saying that something about being framed?
Yes.
What do you recall?
My mom and brother has said that since the beginning. That's why I believe that we were being framed, because they said that they were twisting everything that my mom and brother had on their phones and laptops, and they were trying to frame us.
Okay, that's part of the reasoning too. Now, the big thing that the defense is honing in with the jury, and I understand that juries are not supposed to form an opinion until the fat lady sings. They are human, and they are listening to all of this, and they are taking notes. So, of course, the big thing that the defense keeps bringing up, and they're really not supposed to, but they have found a way to slide it in there. The best plea deal in the state of Ohio, they call it. You avoid the death penalty, and all you have to do is testify against the others, right? Right. Well, yeah, we know that there was a plea deal made. Probably the only way there was going to be any sort of timely justice as well. Of course, we heard about the best attorney for Angela. That blows my mind. He's saying that in his mind, he was helping out as far as the cover-up part of it, as the way I take it, because he believed that they were being set up. They were being framed. Y'all's daughter, did he kill anyone? No, he did not. Nope, he did not. So the question with George, since he did not murder any of the 8 people, Jake killed 5, his daddy killed 3. The question is, did he help plan it? Was he even there? Jake says he was there. Jake said he froze up, that he was supposed to be part of it. But did he help plan it? Did he help cover it up? He says he believes that the whole family at the time was being framed. He doesn't believe that now.
You remember on some of the recordings we listened to, your mother saying that something about being framed.
Yes.
What do you recall?
My mom and brother has said that since the beginning. That's why I believe that we were being framed, because they said that they were twisting everything that my mom and brother had on their phones and laptops, and they were trying to frame us.
And was that your mindset during these conversations?
Yes.
After listening to these recordings that we heard in court, how do you feel about what Jake was saying and what you now know he did?
I now know that he was just lying through his teeth to me.
What about your mother?
Same thing. She was just lying to me from the beginning.
Did you ever tell your mother, referencing these recordings, did you ever tell your mother you would take the blame for these murders?
No, I did not.
Testified.
Okay, according to Angela, George, being the good son that he is, at one point said that he would go down for the whole family. Now, why would George do that? So now we have a problem. The jury has to discern, when is Angela telling us the truth? When is Angela not? When is Jake telling the truth? When is Jake not? They had to be lying at some point because they had to get caught by the authorities between wiretaps and, good old-fashioned police work. Good old-fashioned police work. I'm going to play this again by George, and I put the link up if anybody wants to come up, because this is one of the strangest cases you're ever going to hear about. Ever.
I guess be that you consider Hannah like a little sister, is that right?
Yes.
What type of things would the two of you talk about?
Everything from hunting and fishing and four-wheeling to county fairs to fall festivals. Any issues that she had that she was going through or anything I was going through.
Did you confide in her as well?
Yes.
What would you confide in her?
Issues about my weight and stuff when I couldn't lose weight, and if I was having a bad week with Jake or my mother, or if I had any issues with Tabby or.
Under any circumstances, would you kill Hannah?
No.
Would you assist somebody else in killing Hannah?
No.
Do you remember saying on the recordings anything about your mother and whether she should get an attorney or not? Do you remember any of that?
Yes.
What do you remember?
The conversation that I believe you're talking about is that if all of us were arrested, that my mother should get the best one.
And did you say that?
Yes.
Why did you say that?
Because my mom's the one that watched the kids 5 days a week while we were gone anyway. They were used to being with her for 5 days a week, and I figured it would be easier on the children.
And were you thinking that, oh my God, I'm
Your
doing
Honor, objection.
What were you thinking when you said that?
I was just going under what basically I understood from the attorneys, that if we got arrested, that it could take 6 months, it could take 2 years to get to a trial and be able to work things out.
Do you remember on some of the recordings we listened to, your mother saying that something about being framed?
Yes.
What do you recall?
My mom and brother has said that since the beginning. That's why I believe that we were being framed, because they said that they were twisting everything that my mom and brother had on their phones and laptops, and they were trying to frame us.
All right, so there's really his defense in a nutshell. He thought of Hannah as a little sister. They don't really, at least in this clip, bring up the other 7 victims. Why would you want all 8 dead? Why? Again, I go back to Angela and her control. If you just take out Hannah, then there's a very good chance that her mom, Dana, would get custody of her child. So you got to take out Dana. If you take out Dana and Hannah, there's a very good possibility that her father would get custody of the child. This is such a control thing for her. It's a wonder that they didn't get Bobby, the one that discovered him. It's really a wonder that it stopped with the 8. It's really a wonder. Lizzie said she, meaning Angela, couldn't explain the shoes she bought, especially when they were waiting on her in the car. Yeah. Yeah. She says, oh, those are old man's shoes. They wouldn't wear them. I just threw them away, as if we're going to buy that. They have the shoe print at the scene in the victim's blood. It's crazy. Just Me said everything was about protecting mom. Yes. My question's going to be, but why all 8? First of all, if you think this man, based on some Facebook posts that Angela got everybody stirred up about, is molesting your daughter, then why was he not part of the plot? Why was he not a victim? Wouldn't you go to him? It was never even discussed, as far as I know. Why? I really wonder. Now, this woman is a sick ticket, Angela is. She is a sick, sick woman. I don't know that we'll ever know. I don't know that we'll ever know What's the real motive? She herself said this wasn't about custody. She herself said it's not about custody. I do believe Angela on that. I wonder what it was. Because if it's truly about a danger to the little daughter, and you believe that this man had touched her or was going to, they aren't right in the head. Wouldn't you go after him? But you go after Hannah, which I guess to some people would make sense. Then I guess you would go after Dana so she doesn't get custody. To me, it really comes down to Angela's control. And I think Hannah saying hell no to them. Hell no. You'd have to kill me first. I think Angela took that as a challenge in a way. What's really scary is she almost got away with it. Alicia, and revenge. Revenge. Yep. And revenge. Control, revenge. She's a very, very, very sick woman. She wanted to control it all. She already had her own little utopia going in her mind. She was in on everything. Her kids' finances, their relationships. Sunshine Cowgirl left this comment when I posted the reminder on the page. Sunshine Cowgirl said, "You know, George was so wrapped up with his family and everything, even discussing his sex life while Mama scratched his back. He'd lay in bed and his mother would scratch his back until he went to sleep. Grown man. But he wants the jury to believe he was clueless before, during, and after. She said, I will be beyond sick if he gets away with everything." Well, only time will tell. I'm not overly impressed with the case that the state has put out. I'm not at all. The defense seems to really be honing their points home. Big time. Big time. So if you guys are in the Crime Lines and Lies Facebook group, as the trial goes on, I will post articles as we go along. We're going to do another show when the verdict comes in. And I really hope that he gets life. I do. The death penalty's off the table because I don't believe for a second that his chubby ass, while his mama was scratching his back, did not know what was being cooked up and covered up. I don't believe it for a minute. I don't. I put the link up if anybody wants to come up and chat here. If not, I got to get on with my day. I have a few things I have to do, and then I'm going to be back in a few hours. Because if you hadn't heard, well, then you hear now, because we're going to have another show today about little Quentin Simon. His remains came back. They tested them, and they are Quentin's. So we're going to go through that this afternoon. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing. There's a lot of characters. I mean, you have 8 victims, 4 crime scenes. You have 4 main characters in the Wagner family: Billy, Angela, George, and Jake. You have 2 grandmothers that I barely touched on that were part of the cover-up. Then somewhere in the circle of this, you have a little girl who they say this is all about custody, but I think there was something more to it than that. I do. I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter what the motive is. Just for my own morbid curiosity, I would like to know. I guess I have to wait for the Netflix show, right? I'm sure they'll put their own spin on it. Robin, exactly. Angela kicked Tabby out of the bedroom. Tabby was married to George, so she could rub George's back and talk about his day. Yet he says he was confiding in Hannah about problems with his mom. Well, your mom scratching your back and kicking your own wife out of bed Tells me all I really need to know, and then some. And then some. All right, guys, I'll see you back here in a couple hours, and just keep checking the Facebook group. I don't have a room in Discord for this. I can change that very easily. And we will stay up on it because I am on pins and needles for this verdict. You know I am. See you guys back here in a couple hours. You are the absolute best.